So you thought the election was finally over, and it is, sort of, but we are still waiting for the results of two judicial recounts for the final answer on whether the NDP will form a minority or a very slim majority government. So here to talk about that is our On the Ledge panel. Leyne is a political columnist with the Victoria Times Colonist. Les, hi, good morning.
Hi, Gloria.
And Justine Hunter covers the legislature for the Globe and Mail. And may I just say, Justine, congratulations on winning a Webster Award for environmental reporting earlier this week. It was great to see you up there.
Thanks, Gloria. I appreciate it.
Okay, now, Justine, the counts so far seem to be edging the NDP into majority territory. So if the results stand after this judicial recount is complete, just where does that leave us?
Well, with 47 seats out of 93, it looks like the NDP will have the smallest majority possible. And that means there's no breathing room for anyone in the House, unless the New Democrats can secure some cooperation from across the floor. But without that, the caucus whips will have to keep a tight rein on making sure their people are in their seats for all the votes, because it would be very easy in this scenario to lose a vote. And depending on what it is, it could cost the New Democrats the confidence of the House and possibly force another election. So the Conservatives say they will be on the lookout for opportunities to bring the government down on confidence and budget votes. Whether they actually want to trigger another election right away is something else, but just the threat of it will keep everyone on their toes. And that's why David Eby has been spending so much time since October 19th trying to engage MLAs who are not in his caucus, hoping to work out a pact with the Greens or to poach a Conservative to sit as the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, lots of discussion around that. Unless we got a glimpse this week of sort of the tone the leaders might be taking during discussions in the legislature this term. How would you describe what we heard from each of them?
Yeah, we had a twin bill. Premier Eby and the new opposition leader, John Rustad, did news conferences just a couple of hours apart. Premier Eby's conciliation, open-mindedness, and very mild and genial. He's trying to turn over a new leaf from the campaign mode. He's obviously in such a tentative kind of position. He doesn't want to offend anyone or make any sudden moves. He's got to stay on good terms with as many people as he can while everyone sorts out this legislature. John Rustad less so. He had a couple of sharp remarks for Eby, still in campaign mode, basically. But the position with Rustad is basically that he had a very grudging acknowledgement that he might not fight the NDP or at least even support them if they come up with any initiatives that align exactly with the Conservative platform. I don't see what they are, but they might find some little sliver of agreement here and there. He'll back that. But anything else, anything along the NDP line, he's vowing that fight that he started on election night with that promise that he'll do everything he can to bring down this government the first chance he gets. Sonia Furstenau's still grappling with the concept that she's basically on the sidelines now. That's going to be tricky, calling in plays from outside the legislature. And she's dwelling a bit on concerns she has with the Conservatives in terms of the controversial candidates who were kind of incessantly cited over the campaign for views on offensive views on racism and hatred, basically. That's where Eby actually drew the line. He doesn't want anything to do with those particular unnamed candidates.
Yeah, okay. And it's interesting, Justine, as Les mentions, time to be sorting out the legislature, and lots of talk around the role of the Speaker of the House. And it's a role. It's got some perks that go along with it. Why do you think there's so many Conservatives coming forth, so vehemently declaring publicly, no, I don't want the job?
Yeah, and let's talk about the perks first. Usually the government nominates one of their own members, and it's a plum position. It's not the least of which that you get one of the nicest offices in the legislature. You get to wear the fancy hat. You don't have to attend caucus meetings, and you get to collect an extra $60,000 per year in salary. But if the NDP have to appoint one of their own this time, they're down to 46 votes against the 46 opposition members. And that could mean you'd have to rely on the Speaker to vote to break ties. And that's going to undermine the nonpartisan role that they're supposed to have in the House. So the NDP are really motivated to try and lure a Green or a Conservative to take on the role. And it might sound far-fetched, but they did pull that off in 2017 when they persuaded Liberal Daryl Plecas to take the job. That's something his former caucus colleagues never forgave him for, but the NDP are still hoping they can find somebody who isn't maybe enthusiastic about their coming role on the opposition benches. And so far, the most likely candidates, people like Eleanor Sturko, Peter Millibar, Trevor Halford, they've all come out publicly on social media stating that they have turned the NDP down. Mind you, Mr. Plecas did do the same thing just weeks before he jumped ship, so we could be in suspense for a while yet.
Okay, we're getting used to it. We're getting used to this state of suspense for sure. And Les, in the meantime, how are the leaders viewing this, the almost final results of this election?
EB's short response is we got to do better. They came awfully close to blowing the whole thing. I read it as a pretty considerable loss for the NDP in just about everything except where it counted. They won the seat count by 2, but they lost a lot of ground here, and it's very concerning to them. I think they're just going to reassess everything and probably take a harder line on street crime and another attack on affordability, just trying to ease off taxpayers and do everything they can. That's one read. He's also got a problem to deal with in this new house with the mainland. They only have, I think, 5 seats in all of BC outside the South Coast. And that's tough when you're building a cabinet to get some representation from the rest of BC. He's got to deal with that as well. And Rustad which came up short, obviously, but it's a pretty amazing accomplishment. It's a win in everything except where it counts as far as the Conservatives are concerned. I think they're going to be very ebullient and buoyed by how they turned out.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting mix. And Justine, we've heard from Premier David Eby that he is going to recall the legislature this fall for a sitting, but that he isn't planning any legislation. So why?
Yeah, Lieutenant Governor Janet Austin has asked Mr. Eby to serve as premier this week, so that kind of settles that question. But the NDP need a speaker, and they need to figure out where that speaker is coming from, because they cannot go into the House with any confidence right now to test whether they can get legislation through because of those numbers, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. So they need to get into the House and appoint a speaker, but there's a few things that have to happen first. They need to wait until all those judicial recounts are exhausted. They need to swear in a caucus and then a cabinet. That's going to take us at least till the end of the month. And then we'll have a very brief sitting simply to appoint the speaker once they've got that sorted out. In the meantime, they'll be busy behind the scenes with transition. But if they want to implement anything before spring, when they come back for a full session, they're going to be limited to those things they can do without legislation.
Right. And just briefly for a last word from you, Les, when the counting is finally done, MLAs sworn in, government ready to bring in legislation, just what are you watching for in this new mix of NDP, Conservative, and Greens?
Yeah, 56 rookies. It might take a while for people to just settle into their job, but over half the House is brand new. And when they do, I think this legislature is going to be, I think the gulf between the opposition and the government is as wide now as it's ever been. The NDP took power in 2017, and the Liberals and then the United Party, they kind of mushed around in the middle a bit. They all came together through COVID, obviously, but they were aligned pretty closely on some issues like LNG and the carbon tax and whatnot. And the points of agreement now between the new opposition and the NDP they're very scant. I think it's going to be a lot more divergent in terms of where it's been in the last 7 years or so.
Well, great to check in with both of you. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, take care, Gloria.
That's our On the Ledge panel. Justine Hunter covers the legislature for the Globe and Mail, and Les Leyne is a political columnist with the Victoria Times column.